it's your girl Sheryl Lynn, and you're watching Sweep the League on Alamo City Podcast Network.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League.
Decked out in MLB gear because MLB opening day is next Thursday, March 28th. The San Francisco Giants are on their quest to be World Series champs, which I don't think they're going to be. But nonetheless, that's why they play the games. It is really accomplishing here. It is Sweep the League. It is the Wednesday edition, which means that Coach Shield will be here in a little bit, hopefully. Rock's got an event, so he won't be on. But we have the star, the true mega star of Sweep the League. And he's on with us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is the man, the myth, the legend himself. And we're going to get into some basketball talk like we always do because he loves basketball. We love basketball. Tim Gonzalez is in here. Yep, Tar Heels still suck, Tim. They sure as hell do. But nonetheless, let's bring him on in. It is Derek Gervin. Derek, man, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. How you doing today, Rudy?
Good, man, good. So, we've got March Madness is upon us. And you played at the great school of UTSA, and needless to say, yeah, it wasn't really March Madness for you in the tournament, from UTSA from back in the day. But this is an exciting time for college basketball, and I'm going to give you a broad question because I'm not only excited for the men's game, I am super excited for the women's tournament as well. It has been. I don't think we've ever seen a women's tournament where we've had this much star power in the tournament and it's spread out. I mean, usually you see UConn and Tennessee have all the stars and everything, but now it's like everywhere. USC has Watkins. Who is it? Cameron is over there in Stanford.
Over in Stanford, yeah.
I mean, this is an exciting time, isn't it? March Madness is upon us.
It's fantastic. And it's sad that I'm me being a guy, but I have to be honest, I'm more excited for the ladies because if you look at it, I've been watching them over the course of the year, and you got some really good teams out there. And then, of course, they announced the first team All-American team, and there were some really good players that didn't make that list. I even named a young lady in South Carolina, Miss Full Wiley, who's a freshman. So there's a lot of great players out there this year. I was glad to see Paige Beckers come back and make first team after being injured, coming back for UConn. And It's exciting on both sides, but I'm really excited to see the ladies get it started.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting, man, because, like you mentioned, Paige Beckers, a lot of people forgot about Paige. She had that injury, but, I mean, she was she was dominating the game like Caitlin was for a while there before she got injured over at UConn. Juju Watkins is another headlining player for USC. You got LSU with Angel Reese as well. I mean, there's just a lot of star talented women in this field, but we're not going to take away from the men as well. Derek, you've got a favorite going into March Madness. Now, yesterday on the show, I revealed my bracket because, of course, everybody wants to copy my bracket. They know it's 100% correct. I'm going to win the $1 million prize or whatever. But I actually have Arizona winning the tournament, and I had them before the season started. I just like their balance of a team. To me, they're just that right team to compete. But if you've got any team out there, maybe a surprise, who would you look at when it comes to March Madness?
Wow, it's not even I won't say a surprise. My team to win it all for me is the UConn to repeat. I really believe in Danny Hurley. I think he's got something special within himself, and then he's got a nice core around him. They lost some guys last year, from the championship team, but they've rebuilt really well, and I think they're going to be the team for me. But there's a few teams out there. I can even go down to the 9 and 10, 11 type teams, the Illinois type teams like that, even Kentucky. It's going to be interesting. I know a lot of people are looking at UConn and Houston and Purdue and, the top teams that we're used to seeing. But this year it's going to be very interesting. It's all about who gets hot at the right time.
So what I'm going to do is, because Gio should be here in a little bit, we'll talk in a little bit of college basketball with Derek Gervin here, Sweep the League. I'm going to share my screen for you, Derek, and I did it yesterday. So again, if you didn't get a chance to copy my picks, here's your opportunity. So I actually have Illinois beating UConn when it comes to the getting into the Final Four out of the Elite Eight. I just like Illinois' backcourt. I really am impressed with them. When it comes to the South bracket, I have Houston coming out of the South on that side of things, playing Marquette. Out of the West, I have my Carolina Tar Heels losing to Arizona, Arizona making the Final Four. And then I have Purdue beating Tennessee coming out of that Midwest bracket. So my Final Four is Illinois, Arizona, Houston, Purdue.
Can't argue those picks are really good picks. Hey, tell me this. Are you sold on Purdue? Because you know some of these teams every year, they're highly touted teams, and then they go all the way down. We get to the big games, March Madness, and then they seem to come up short. And I'm just asking because does Purdue kind of remind you of how Virginia used to always get there, and then they seem to come up short? I'm hoping that's not the case this year. I believe in the big fella. Edie, but I always have questions about Purdue when we get down to the March Madness.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions about Purdue. But it's kind of weird because out of all the brackets, I actually say Purdue has the easiest path to the Final Four, if you think about it. And I don't mean any disrespect to any team in there, but if you look closely, Derek, I have McNeese State going all the way to the Elite Eight. I mean, not McNeese State, just McNeese, all the way to the Elite Eight. I mean, they're 30-3 on the season. And they're that good for a reason. I have them beating Gonzaga in the first round because Gonzaga's injured. I have them upsetting Kansas, which now, because of the Kansas injuries, I'm not so sure Kansas can get out of the first round. We could see a McNeese-Samford, but either way, I've got McNeese going all the way to face Purdue, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Purdue fall to McNeese. I mean, I don't buy the hype. I mean, the 1 year, and I'm going to tell you, I'll go back far for this one. The 1 year I bought into the Purdue hype, Derek, was when their best player was Robbie Hummel. I bought into the biggest Purdue hype. Robbie Hummel was the guy for me. I was like, man, I love watching this guy play. But they just could never get it done, man. And you're right about Purdue. It's hard to trust them.
It's going to be exciting, though. You look at some of these teams. You know what kind of surprised me? Was Houston keeping that number one seed. I know they had a heck of a year, and they, I think they ended up losing like 3 games, maybe 4 on that last one. But if you look at the way they lost, I thought it just showed a lot of weaknesses, and I thought they showed a lot of things that teams could key on defensively as far as taking them out of their sets, and that's going to be interesting to see. So I was kind of surprised to see Houston hang on to that number one seed.
Yeah, it is a surprise. And we're going to get to Tim's question real quick before we go on with some more college basketball talk with Derek Gervin. He's basically asking, some of these players in this tournament are playing their final year. What would you say to the young men and women who are about to enter the draft or graduate, being that this is their final March Madness that they would ever be a part of?
Well, first I'm going to say good afternoon, Tim. That's a great question. For me, it would be just telling the young people, if I could talk to them, it would be just basically enjoying the moment. And, you get to be around your peers. Some of these players have been together 3 or 4 years. And it's just enjoying the ride. I mean, you got an opportunity to get an education, and you also got a chance to do something that we all love, the game of basketball. And so just to soak up all that, the camaraderie of being with the coaches, being with the players, and just enjoying the journey and trying to go out and finish with a bang. But the college experience is something that I'm glad that they got a chance to be a part of, because I think for me that's the top experience of all, even for me, even over the NBA.
Yeah, man, it's a great experience, college basketball. I'm always been one to say I prefer the college game over the pro game. I mean, I love the college game when it comes to basketball, men, women. I mean, even college football. I love watching that. Also, I mean, a lot of times more than the pros. Actually, I mean, these guys are fighting for, their spots on the team. They're fighting to get to the next level. So it's all heart right there. But one thing, Derek, is I got a school that I've actually compared to McNeese, and I can see them going far here. and that's Grand Canyon University, GCU. I've got them playing North Carolina in the Sweet 16. Now, do I see them upset North Carolina? Probably not. North Carolina is they've got probably the best guard in the country in Davis. I mean, Baycott can turn it on at any time. They've got a good team there. But Grand Canyon is another team. Are we starting to see these? And I hate to use the word mid-major because I find it kind of disrespectful in a way, but we're going to use it mid-major. Are we seeing a lot of these mid-major teams starting to just, you know what? We're not this bum ass school. We are a school to compete with. And are we going to see some of these teams in the Final Four here really, really soon?
I don't know if we're going to see one of them this year. This for me is almost kind of like a chalk years. Surprisingly, I'm saying that. But you're going to have some teams that are going to come on. Grand Canyon. And the good thing about the tournament, Rudy, is what makes it so exciting. The young ladies and the men is this a one-game knockout. And as we know, styles make games. So a lot of these top-tier teams don't get to prepare properly for some of these so-called lower-tier teams. But when you look at it, these teams have a very good rosters. They finished the season very strong, and they're here to compete. And you never know in the NCAA. That's what makes it so great. They call it March Madness because that's exactly what happens. And as you know, somebody's going to upset. They're going to be a big upset. But remember, Rudy, we only used to talk about the 5 against the 12.
Yeah.
That those days are gone. And if you look at it now, man, you got some of these number 1 seeds have been getting their butts scared to death. And I think it's going to be very exciting. But I look forward to be several upsets before we get to the finals, the Sweet 16, I would say.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, man. I mean, if we're going to go through upset alert here, I've got Drake beating Washington State. That would be considered an upset. I've got, NC State, which is, 11th ranked. I've got them beating Texas Tech. I mean, I've got quite a few upsets. Of course, I've got McNeese and I've got Grand Canyon, New Mexico, Oregon. They're considered lower tier teams on the bracket, which they're not actually. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring in Coach Gio here before we go any further. Gio is back, and, I'm glad too, because I had to get Gio in here to go over the Kobe debate that Michael Jimenez had earlier on his show, because I was on Jimenez's show earlier. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But hey, Gio, before I get to you, JC says, Derek, you were missed yesterday. A lot of people missed you yesterday, and we all did too. But they need to know your answer to this. Do I need to grow my beard out? Maybe get the headbands, the wristbands, and the high socks. What is the preferred college pro basketball combo? So first off, the beard question. There's a debate on whether I should grow the beard out. I'm not sure if that's.
Well, I'm going to go with the majority, and I would think the majority said yes, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, they said yes.
Well, I figured the majority said yes, so I'm going to go ahead. I don't want to buck the trend, so I'm going to say yes. Go with the beard. Yes, sir.
Also, what's the best combination? What's the best basketball combination? Would it be, a headband and wristbands, the high socks, the knee-high socks and the headband? I mean, you got the Jackie Moon from semi-pro look. What is the best look if you're going to take the court?
Hey, let me say this quickly. I hope a lot of people know one of the first guys that started the high socks was my brother.
Yeah, George.
George started doing it, and then a lot of other guys, Adrian Dantley and some more guys started wearing the high socks. And of course, you remember Walt Williams. He actually is a big fan of George, and he was rocking the high socks at college at Maryland, and then rocking them again in the NBA.
Nah, man, Walt Williams. I couldn't remember. I can't believe we have a wizard sighting here. Walt Williams. All right, Gio. So Derek pretty much said that all my picks are 100% great and yours are terrible. So we're gonna.
Well, I haven't made my pick yet, so
I've seen that. I see that.
We talked about Virginia the other day, Rudy. They couldn't even score 20. Like, that team was absolutely terrible. They shouldn't have been in the tournament. They got over Indiana State, who was actually ranked 29th in the country. They don't get in, but Virginia gets in, and they got murdered last night against Colorado State. So
they sure as hell did, man. See, now John picked the same teams as me, so John's going to win $1 million if he enters in that thing. And that's right, the Kansas player is out for the rest of this. That's where I'm thinking that Samford may have that chance, man. Also, real quick before we move on to the Kobe talk, is Derek. I was on Michael Jimenez's and Joe Garcia's show this morning. Mike Jimenez said that his Sancha NBA team back in the day were the Detroit Pistons, and he said his favorite player was a guy you know very well, a guy that we've both talked about. So it was Joe Dumars, man. And I did not know about that. You've got a lot of Joe Dumars stories. Why? Because you played against Joe in college, man.
Yeah, Joe was spectacular. I played against him in McNeese State when I was at UTSA. We were fortunate to beat those guys. I remember Joe had 28 points, and he had 20 of them off of free throws. We came out when I saw him play. I had heard a lot about him. He's a very heralded player that year, even though he was at a school that wasn't so known around the country at McNeese. But Joe, man, just talk about just a class guy. He never talked on the court. He led his team. But other than that, he was not a trash talker. He was just a guy that came out and played hard, and he played hard for 40 minutes. And I never thought that he would be the type of player that he turned out to be in the NBA. I mean, if you talk about NBA, if you want to put a guy's name on it and talk about behavior and the overall aspect of the game and giving your all, Joe Dumars is right there.
100%, man. 100%. This is Derek Gervin. It is Coach Gio, Rudy Campos Jr. Sweep the League coming to you, Alamo City Podcast Network. Head over to the YouTube, subscribe, like, share. Definitely a good thing to get with this here. We're going to be with you every single day, Monday through Friday from 4 to 5, maybe 5:30. We'll see how long it goes. But we are your drive home now. You listen to us when you're driving home. And if it gets too wild, pull over, have your laughs, and then get back on the road. We're sharing now the debate here. We've got to get into this. I'm bringing this up. This is going to be crazy here because we got a bunch of stats. But it was debated on Jimenez's show yesterday that Kobe was a top 5 all-time NBA player. And I see the roll eyes by Derek. Now, I don't have Kobe in my top 5. I have Kobe in my top 15. I can maybe make a case for top 10, maybe. But definitely not top 5. My thing, what I told Mike on his show was you can't be top 5 if you're not the top player in your organization. Kareem and Magic are 1 and 2 for the Lakers. So if you're not the best player for the Lakers, how can I put you in the top 5? I mean, to me, that's simple math, I think, when it comes to it, man. Am I right or am I wrong on that?
Well, Rudy, a lot of people like popularity. That factors in as well. For me personally, I think Kobe, as we know, is a great player. I don't think there's one person to say that he wasn't. But there's sometimes you hear people when they talk about the great players, they don't talk about the negative things that they did on the court as well. And for me, I'm not too happy that Kobe played 20 years and he basically never shot over 47% in any of those years. He had an average of 44.7%, but he did hit a lot of big shots, a lot of winning shots, and he made some spectacular plays. But for me, I tell you, it's hard when you're looking at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. For me, those are still the 2 greatest Lakers, and then you got Kobe and Jerry West and whatever you may go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Magic and Kareem 1, 2. Gio, you want to jump on this because Tim is he's your Duke friend here. He's pretty pissed off because he says he was the greatest Laker of all time.
Wait, I mean, look, it's a tough when you're ranking greats from certain organizations. Is going to be tough to really rank guys because obviously the eras are different. But Kobe, he's not in my top 5. It's tough to put him in there. And Rudy, are we talking about top 5 greatest of all time?
Apparently the debate was top 5 greatest of all time. Time.
Yeah, no. I mean, Kobe's not he's not even the greatest shooting guard at his position of all time, right? I mean, that it's going to MJ. So it's tough for me. Listen, as a Spurs fan, Kobe was honestly, Shaq was dominant, but Kobe was the one I feared. Like Kobe was the one that if Kobe goes off for 40, Duncan can kind of counteract Shaq to a certain extent. But when Kobe coming in doing his thing, that was a guy I feared. As big as Shaq was and as a terrorizer as he was, Kobe was the one I feared. But the top 5 greatest, man, like Kobe's not, to your point, really not even the best Laker of all time, right? So
Yeah,
it's tough for me. My top 5 is Michael, obviously number 1. Number 2, listen, I've given this guy hate over the years, but LeBron James, I mean, look what this guy has done. He's the all-time leading scorer. 3 and 4. I got Kareem at 3, Bill Russell at 4, and 5 is actually a pretty tough one for me. But I'm gonna go with Magic on that.
so that's your top 5. Where does Kobe fall for you? Do you have other
Kobe's gonna be number 11 for me. So I got Larry Bird.
you got Larry.
So Will Chamberlain, I mean, you can put him 5 or 6, but I got Larry at 7. And listen, I'm a huge Duncan fan. I'm going to put Duncan over Shaq, but those are kind of 2 guys you can kind of interchange there at that spot. And then Kobe's probably going to be number 10 or number 11.
I don't know how you can keep, and I guess this is not fandom so much. I'm going to get to Derek's in a minute here, but it's not fandom per se, but the more I look at it, the more I think about it, I can't leave Tim Duncan out of my top 5. I really can't. It's hard for me to leave him out of my top 5.
I mean, listen, Wilt's, look, you look at Kareem, right? I mean, obviously, I think he's number 3 or 2. But Bill Russell, look, he did win, I mean, more rings than a finger. I think, sure, he was not playing the competition, but he still had to go out there and still compete. And he still had to go through some things that were a bit different for that time. As we know, the landscape was very different, especially living in Boston at that time. There are a lot of things going on, but
I don't have LeBron in my top 5.
I mean, Rudy,
I really don't. I really don't.
I don't. So where's LeBron on your list then, Rudy? He's the all-time leading scorer. What are you doing?
I don't give a damn about all-time leading scorer. I mean, to me, you can be the all-time leading scorer. It just means you took a lot of shots, man. You played for a long time. I mean,
Rudy, that feat. I mean, come on, it's not
impress me by being the all-time assist guy, by being the all-time steal guy.
Come on, Rudy.
That's
still the object of the game is to still score.
The object of the
number
game
1
is to score the ball, but but when scoring is at an all-time high in premium because it's easier to score, do we not factor that in as well?
We should, but listen, we have to also acknowledge, hey, he's the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I get where you're coming from, Brady. I'm not the biggest LeBron guy either, but
seems like it.
I see his talent, and listen, the guy. I mean, listen, he's still a walking 24, 6 and 10. I mean, it's just he's putting up numbers. Yes, you want to talk about the era, but he's still at the age that he's doing, Rudy. He's still very impressive.
It's impressive, Derek. You're salivating this before you get on your Kobe top 5 and everything here. I got a text message, Gio. We haven't heard from him in a while. Austin Hartsfield, Sweep the League's own MLB insider, Austin Hartsfield says, people that put Kobe over Tim Duncan drive me crazy. I just didn't watch enough. He is true. Derek, the floor is yours. We got comments left and right. Jimenez said LeBron was a greater Laker than Kobe. That's BS. LeBron is not even top 10 player, had an easy competition in the East.
Okay, you guys are just stop it. Stop. You need to stop.
You couldn't even have to tell my top 10 is gonna probably shake some people up. So
go for it. The floor is yours. I want to see Gio's reaction. I gotta
be honest, and my list hasn't changed other than one added guy, and I'll get to him at the end. For me, I've had Kareem and Mike in either order, 1A, 1B. I've had it that way for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I have to give Will we just talking about individual players. I got Will Chamberlain 3rd. I got Bill Russell. I have to put Bill in there. Bill did some magnificent things, even though it was an earlier era. But I still have to commend the man for the 11 championships overall. Mm-hmm. And then for number 5, I have Magic Johnson. I had to put Magic in there. Right after Magic, I've got Tim Duncan. And after Tim, I have Larry Bird, and then I have LeBron. I love what LeBron has done, but it has been, to me, an easier era. I still can't take away that he's got 40,000 points, and we know what he did with the assist and all of that. And then I got number 9. I got Olajuwon for me still. And then at number 10, I would have Jokic. I have to throw Jokic in there. He's moving up the chain quickly. And then from there, it's Kobe and Shaq. But I would have Shaq first, because anytime you win 3 championships in a row and you get MVP all 3 of them, for me, that factors in. And then I would have Kobe after Shaq. But that's just my list.
Man, Derek has an interesting list there, Derek.
He does. And that's what I'm saying, that, everybody's list is different. I mean, my 5 is, Jordan, Kareem, either or. I mean, you got to give it to Russell, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson. I mean, those would be my 5, and I'm leaving. And I mean, you can make cases for everybody else, but where LeBron stands, it's like LeBron is top 10 for me. Kobe is in top 15, but I mean, people are going to be pissed off that we don't have, oh my God, you forgot Stephen Curry, the guy that changed the game. And then Steph is not, top 10. Like, there's nothing to me that puts Steph in the top 10.
Rudy, can I say this quickly and not to cut you off?
No, go ahead.
For me, LeBron, we all know how great a player it is, but LeBron has how great he is, but he has a tendency sometimes, man, to just go through the motions out there. And I'm talking offensively and defensively. Sometimes I felt like he left some meat on the bone, as they say. That even though he's has some great stats, sometimes even if you look at him recently, they played Sacramento, and he had a tendency to not guard Harrison Barnes, to play off of his man and not play tough defense. And Harrison Barnes basically buried them in the fourth quarter. And I've seen LeBron do that a lot this year. I've seen him cherry picking a lot so he can get out on the break. He does that quite a bit. And all people got to do is look at the film. Sometimes you don't see him coming to the play. If he misses a layup on one end, you don't see him coming to the play until the play is almost over on the other end. And those are some of the things that have hurt the team. And people don't believe me. All they got to do is go pull up the film.
I'm not disagreeing with Derek. I'm just saying, look, the man's going to be 40 years old. There's a lot of tread in those tires. He's not able to do the things that he once did. So, hey, there's going to be times where he picks his spot, he cherry picks, and, it's not going to look great on camera. But Derek is right, though. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest ever, man. I mean, people today, when we make our list, everybody's going to have their differences. But one thing I hope they recognize is if we even talking about you in the top 15 or 10 or whatever it may be, that means you were one hell of a player.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't ever the part that I've got is I don't ever debate anymore between LeBron and Kobe. I mean, LeBron and Jordan. I don't really debate that anymore because, like I've mentioned before, it's just the GOAT debate is just kind of ridiculous now. It's getting to the point where people get so upset. You see people fighting. You see social media wars back and forth. You know what? You have your list. They have their list. It is a list. It's basically preference. I mean, stats are stats. If you go strictly by stats, then yeah, LeBron has the stats to be the GOAT. Does he have the accomplishments? I mean, not necessarily. He doesn't have the accomplishments. So it's like the GOAT debate goes to this. Do you want to debate on stats or do you want to debate on accomplishments? Do you want to debate on titles? Because if we're talking titles, we're talking what? Bill Russell? I mean, then you got to throw Robert Horry. I mean, you're going to call Robert Horry the greatest of all time?
Rudy, stop it. Don't even mention Robert Horry's name in this conversation. I don't want to hear it. He's always talking crap too. But
I know, but I'm just saying you can pick any category you want to debate. If you base it on that category, it's going to be different every single time.
I'm basing it on championships, stats, as well as impact, and also a few other intangibles. But look, I mean, we can argue if LeBron's top 5, he's a top 10 all-time great. So
yes, I won't debate that. He's top 10 on my list, and at the end of the day, he'll still be top 10. I don't think he'll ever surpass, any of the 5 that I've got, obviously, because they're not playing anymore. But I still have him as top 10. And you know what, Gio? He's probably top 7. He'll always be a top 7 player for me. John is in here. Darth, top 5 are Magic, Bird, Jordan, Kareem, Maravich, and Duncan. Again, everything's different. I mean, everything is different. Tim's in here. Russell, Jordan, Magic, Kobe, Duncan is his top 5. I mean, again, everything's debatable. Like we said, our very own Austin Hartsfield, Go Talk just feels like talking politics. You're not changing anyone's mind and just wasting breath.
It's fun to talk about, Austin. It's just something conversation.
Exactly. And that's the way I feel. It's like you can debate the Go Talk all you want. It's just not ever.
Hey, Rudy, we talk about it, and this is how funny it is, though. You got people that are older. I'll be 61 next week, and you have people that are older than me that still have Dr. J or Elgin Baylor, people like that in their top 5 or top 10. So it's just something good to talk about.
Hey,
Really is.
One thing about Elgin, man, if he could have won more championships, I mean, how many championships did he go to, Rudy, and lost? Was it
a bunch?
Yeah,
like 8, I think right 8. I know Jerry West went 1 and 8, so 8.
Man, if Elgin gets 6 or 7, we could be adding him to that discussion.
Yeah, and Elgin doesn't get a whole lot of love, and that's sad. Elgin Baylor, man. I mean, he's one of those guys that I dare.
27, 13, and 4 in his career. I mean, that is remarkable. Unfortunately, he ran into the Celtics, right? But if Elgin wins 5 or 6 of those championships, even 4, we're talking to him about different bread. But you never mention you never hear his name at all when talking about some of the greatest. But you go look at his stats, his intangibles. Unfortunately, he just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, you can't. And Chris Bettis is in here, so no current players are top 5. Again, every list is debatable. I don't have anybody currently in my top 5.
And, and tell Chris, and this is nothing negative, but Chris, these guys are getting anointed. Just like I have Jokic 10 number right now. I could be anointing him too early. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we anoint some of these guys before their careers are even over, and that's kind of disrespectful to the guys that have already went ahead and had a calendar years and played 10, 12, 15 years. So I could be doing the same thing. But, yeah, right now I wouldn't have – who would be in the top 5 right now other than LeBron and Steph? And some people might say KD.
I'll say this much. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, but I'm going to say this. If Jokic goes back-to-back and adds a couple more titles and another MVP or 2, I got to put him probably top 5. I've got to consider it or going way up that list. So he could really be up there. Now, my problem is exactly what Chris said, at least LeBron. I'd have trouble probably putting him above LeBron right away. But if there's a current player that I could put in the top 5, if the success continues, it could be the Joker, Nikola Jokic. We're going to do more debate talk here, more GOAT talk in a little bit here. Take a little quick commercial break. This is Sweep the League. Derek Irvin, Coach Gio. We'll be right back.
Locked on Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast, hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked on Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on Threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on Threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@Locked on Spurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked on Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah, it is Jeff Garcia. Go ahead and follow him on Twitter, X, everything. Locked on Spurs. Great podcast to check out if you're a Spurs fan. I'm guest on there every now and then, so you can find me on there as well. It is Jeff Garcia, Locked on Spurs. Getting back to some of the chat here, man. So, I mean, yeah, currently I could say, Derek, that Jokic is probably the guy that I see surpassing anyone currently. I mean, you're talking probably going to average a triple-double for multiple seasons, not just a couple or anything. He's probably going to be one of the few guys to just average a triple-double for multiple seasons here on in, dominating the league already. I think that's one guy that I can probably put in the top 5 when it's all said and done of the current guys.
He will be. I'll say this, though. If we see this trend, some players retiring a little early, I wouldn't be surprised, Rudy, if he's the type of guy that at a certain point where he could have years left, he ends up hanging it up because
Possibly.
he has that kind of demeanor of, even sometimes in press conferences, he doesn't even like doing that. He didn't even want to go to the championship parade. He says, I'd rather be in my home country. He's the type of guy I wouldn't be surprised if he retires a bit early than having several years left in his career. Something to watch out for.
Yeah.
Don't you guys think right now there are two guys, maybe that the Jokic is one of them, and possibly Giannis, the two guys, if you look down as history moves on, that could possibly overtake LeBron and Steph? Wouldn't you see right now those would be the possible two?
If I had to pick two, maybe, but I'm saying Jokic and Giannis. I mean, Giannis to me, his accomplishments are there, but I don't see his style of basketball working, for his entire career. It's bully ball is what it is.
What if he gets two more titles or another title or two, Rudy? Because we remember the one he was really dominant, and I remember he got a 50-point game in the last game or something against Phoenix. What if he were to get another one or two championships? Would that even put him in the conversation with Tim Duncan or Karl Malone and those guys?
No. I think the biggest thing with me, the playoff streaks for me are for both of those guys is massive. I mean, that just shows a big dominance, especially for Timmy, 20 plus years of playoffs, never missed a playoff in his career. Always a contender. Same thing with Malone and Stockton. I know people say, well, Malone had Stockton, but you know what? Malone was dominant in his own right. And I think those two guys are still, even if Giannis wins another 2 titles, if it's just titles, man, it's tough because I think you'd have to still bring a little bit more hardware and a lot more scoring to overtake Malone, but I don't think he ever takes over Duncan. I don't think really we'll see a power forward ever take over Timmy. And if you want to consider Jokic, I mean, that's a possibility that he take over a big man spot over Tim Duncan. But as far as power forward goes, no, I can't ever see anybody taking over Tim Duncan. There's no way.
Yeah, and also Tim's longevity, right? I mean, he won a championship, a long streak within his fourth to his fifth. I mean, he was still relevant. His defensive win shares, I mean, his defense consistency was still at an all-time peak at his age. And look, his last playoff game, Rudy, I mean, he had 27 points in that game when he lost against Oklahoma City. Timmy was just, people forget, Rudy, and it's going to be unfortunate. Obviously, San Antonio is different, but in general, people will forget Duncan within the next 10, 20 years. But you put on those tapes, especially those earlier years, and if Duncan doesn't have that surgery, Rudy, remember he was it his ACL that he tore, or I don't remember what his injury was. It could have been his knee. Man, if that knee doesn't happen, man, I think because he did kind of bulk up a bit towards those last few years or towards the last 10 years. But man, Duncan in his prime, I don't think Jokic or even Giannis, it's going to be tough because that playoff streak and also championships, man. Duncan went to 6 NBA finals. I mean, that's amazing streak there. And he could have went 6-0 like Mike. Could have went. But freaking Ray Allen, man, yeah. And Pop taking out Duncan, that freaking rebound we couldn't get. But yeah,
I mean, hey,
18 rebounds, Gio, and he's sitting on the bench, man. Come on.
Can you have imagined, because we talk about him possibly going 6-0? I mean, the possibility of him going 8-0 in playing finals if the 0.4 didn't happen, the Manu foul on Dirk. I mean, there's a lot of instances where the guy could have probably gone 8-0 in the finals, and probably would have been talked about as overtaking Mike.
Top 3.
I mean, because a lot of those were back-to-backs that he should have won. With the Spurs.
It still could be for some. You really could, if you really wanted to get down to it. Yeah. People could put Tim in there when you start talking about the rare air, Mike Jordan and Kareem or whoever, whichever direction, LeBron.
Yeah,
Tim could easily be in there. I mean, if you look at his resume, it's not really many negative things you could say about him. And then when you get down to him being a 15-time all defensive player, I mean, not much more I can say after that.
Yeah, I mean, people will go on record as saying that Tim is the greatest of all time, period, over Mike and Kareem. And I have to sit back and think, okay, possibly. I mean, Mike missed the playoffs in his career. I mean, I don't think Kareem ever did. I don't think Kareem ever missed the playoffs. But I mean, we know for a fact Timmy never did. So the conversations are. What's up?
I was on the floor. Remember when Tim first came down here in '97? I used to practice with those guys. At that time, we were practicing at Full Life on Fredericksburg and Callahan. And I've been on the floor with Jordan too. And even though it was Tim's first year coming in, man, you know, David Robinson and Will Perdue were there. But Tim's presence on the floor, I don't know if I felt that before, man. And I've been on the floor with the Magic Johnsons and the Birds and those guys. But just as an overall impact, and you just a guy that you're going to know he's out there on the floor, and it didn't have to be scoring. It was just playing the game of basketball. Tim Duncan is right at the top of the list.
I mean, he won a championship and a Finals MVP his second year in the league. I mean, the Spurs were the worst team, or one of the worst teams in the league in '97. They had a huge turnaround in '98, and then '99 they win the championship. And Duncan was, I mean, the big part of that Finals MVP second year. Meanwhile, you had guys like Shaq, right? Still trying to get that coveted championship. Charles Barkley still trying to get it. Karl Malone, but it was Tim Duncan, and obviously David Robinson there too, who was able to get that crown. But man, Duncan's you look at those 2-year run there, man. It was a great hell of a run.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Chris Gonzalez's question here. He's asking, what players would you select to close out a game? Now, there's two different ways. I mean, buzzer beater, yeah, you can go that route, or you close out a game as in, you know, you're up 3 and you need a bucket to just solidify the win. I mean, any way you can go with that. As we're talking about that, I also wanted to share this moment here because I wanted to ask you guys, where is it? I got it right here. So what we're going to do is show the Kyrie Irving game-winning basket against Denver, a left-handed shot.
Good start.
Yeah, I've heard so much about, you know, game-winning baskets. This is probably one of the greatest game winners that I've ever seen. It is on Sirius XM NBA, and I started to think, like, man, that's a pretty damn good one. I don't know where it ranks for me, but to close out a game, who would you guys choose to close out a game if you were going all time in the back in the day, or even currently? Because I think currently it's almost like Dame or Steph. If you win that last shot, would be a good choice. But who do you guys have?
How many are we picking?
You pick whatever you want. Whatever you want.
I'm gonna pick 3. For me, I definitely got to put Dame in there. We've seen it too many times.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna shock some people because I didn't put him in my top 10. But if you're talking about game winners, I got Kobe Bryant in there.
Yeah,
and that's 2. So I would have Kyrie, Kobe, and then my last one would be a guy that's playing today with the Clippers if he's healthy, and that would be Kawhi Leonard. We're talking playoff Kawhi. He would be the guy I would take. So those would be my 3: Kyrie, Dame, and I'll take Kawhi. I'm taking all 3 guys from this era.
There you go, man.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, from the list, I mean, Michael Jordan has had some iconic game-winning buzzers. So y'all left Michael Jordan out. I'm going with the GOAT, MJ. He's definitely on the list. Number 2, I'm going to give some love to Larry Bird. If you need a shot, Derek, Larry wouldn't be too bad, right, Derek?
Oh, no. I didn't mean to leave him out. I just wanted what I was trying to do was shake people up to let them know that some old school actually still pay attention to this era.
And for some new school love, I'm gonna go with Dame has so many of those, so I'm gonna put Dame there. Steph Curry, he's had some walk-offs, but those 2 guys, MJ and Larry Bird, with 3 or 4 seconds left, I mean, and to think about this though. A lot of these guys are taking a lot of threes normally, right? Like Dame's popping up and shooting these threes. Jordan his ability to get to the basket and Larry's ability to create his own shot. I mean, and another guy to put in here, if he was on the list of tops, Reggie Miller.
Well, Chris, and you and Rudy. So, what do you guys think about Luka? What's stopping Luka from being on that list? Because if you really look at it, he's another guy that I like. But the only thing is, he spends too much time to me in the perimeter, out on the wing. Just picture Luka. If you can get him the ball on the mid post area at the end of the game, let him make decisions. That would be powerful.
So, with the thing with Kyrie and Luka, the big difference for me is the obvious, and that's Kyrie is able to get to the basket, create his own shot. I mean, he's more tactical than Luka. Luka, I love Luka's game, but I mean, if you're giving me one or the other, Luka and Kyrie, it's got to be Kyrie. God, why am I picking Duke players? Tim's right. I keep picking Duke players over some stuff. But I think the last man, I mean, I gotta love me some Larry Legend, of course, some Michael Jordan. Kobe had some amazing game winners as well. There's just so many guys out there. I don't know who I would actually pick for a game-winning shot. If it's today's basketball, give me Dame.
I got one. If we just taking one shot only, and this is on the, I guess, if 7 days a week, Gio. Now I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna go back, and the one guy I would take the most. What's the most dependable shot in NBA history?
The hook shot.
The sky hook.
Yeah, the sky. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I gotta put Kareem in there. There's no way. I watched it too many times against the Spurs with or without Artis Gilmore. So yeah, I gotta throw Kareem in there. He broke my heart a million times.
Yeah, man. So we got a lot of comments here. Let's get to the comments before we go to the next question here. Let's see. Tim Gonzalez. In the next 30 or 40 years, he talks about Wemby being among the greats. That's still up to be seen. He's got to win, Rookie of the Year first. We got to give him the Rookie of the Year. John Morant will get in my top because I love his game. See, John loves John Morant's game. That's no problem with me. Kyrie is a specialist on that kind of a shot. Austin Hartsfield, the entire Mavs backcourt. Yeah, that is the entire Mavs backcourt. Tim is wondering if Derek Gervin played with Wemby and Bill Russell, how many titles would they win? How many titles would Derek Gervin win if he played
healthy
with
Derek
and Bill Russell? I think I would think they'd win a good amount of titles. But will Derek be nice enough to allow Wemby and Russell to score, or does he want that ball in his hands all the time?
Hey, no,
He's a Gervin. He's a Gervin. He wants to
already
score.
Know with Bill, Bill didn't worry about scoring because Bill gonna hit the offensive glass and all that. What I would love, Rudy, is I could picture myself in the pick and roll or pick and pop with Wendy. I think that would be spectacular. I'm just looking at his game, and that's one of the times I wouldn't mind sacrificing scoring. Just looking at the high ceiling. If you look at Wemby for 7'4", 7'5", or whatever he may be, he shoots the ball like a Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And I've told people before, he reminds me of a David Robinson, George Gervin, and Tim Duncan combination. But man, with Wemby and Bill Russell, we'll be averaging 35, 40 rebounds just between those two. So I like our chances.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a lot of titles, I think, with those two guys.
Oh yeah.
Derek's a scorer. He's a Gervin. He's a scorer. But you know what, Derek? With that kind of 1-2 combo right behind you, you would be like me. You wouldn't want to play any defense at all. You just say, "Oh, by all means, go ahead. Take your chances with those two guys, man."
Hey, Rudy, but both of them are cerebral guys, and if you look at it, they're a team. They're perfect for a locker room. Neither guy caused a lot of waves, and you already know Bill Russell came out and let his actions speak for him, and Wemby's doing the same. So just to be on the floor with those two guys. Just think about defensively, man. I really could get into passing lanes and all that stuff and gamble. With those two behind you, you can't go wrong.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Hey,
what do you got, Jim?
Quick question for Derek. So, Derek, what player in the past when you were playing in the league, what player did you wish you had the chance to play with?
Wow. Well, for me, it would be Magic Johnson. I just saw us in the backcourt because at first I played small forward with the Nets, and then I started playing small forward and the shooting guard. And now I got to play a little bit with Drazen Petrovic. But man, Magic Johnson, I even watched, and this is no exaggeration, I watched film of him earlier today. a film of Magic Johnson and a film of Rick Barry. And so if you give me the opportunity to play with Irvin Magic Johnson, man, that would be like heaven here on earth.
Magic. Who would you play, Gio? If you had the opportunity to play in the NBA, what one guy would you have wanted to play with?
Well, listen, I'm a Spurs fan, so obviously Tim Duncan. But to give another answer, I would have loved to play with, and I'm using the word love because I know he's a very, he's his own man. But having the chance up close to see what Michael Jordan was all about, I think, obviously it gives us a different perspective, Derek, on how he was with that doc of The Last Dance. But just being in it and thinking to myself, man, this guy's willing to fight me.
Yeah.
He's willing to test me at all costs just to win a freaking game. You know what I'm saying? So MJ, to me, just being around that lore and having to be obviously a role player, I would have loved to have been there.
Man, so I'm gonna kind of go. It's gonna go weird a little bit, maybe not. But
another Duke player?
No. So surprisingly, no, not a Duke player. It's weird because if it's me, I would have loved to have donned the red, white, and blue colors of the New Jersey Nets and been the guy. Now, in my defense, I mean, Kenny Anderson is way better than I am, obviously. I mean, I'm maybe a step below Kenny Anderson. But to have the opportunity to pass the ball coming off a screen to Drazen Petrovic and just kind of sit there and think, yeah, that's going in. That's going in. To see my assist totals just go sky high. Playing with Drazen was one guy I would have loved to have played it back in the day. Also a guy that San Antonio lore. I mean, it's not Tim Duncan. It's not David Robinson. It's nobody like that. But one of my all-time favorite Spurs players is Alvin Robertson. I would have loved to have played with Alvin Robertson just to see the defense intensity that guy brought, knowing that he can average 20 a game and get a few steals a game. To me, I just grew up a big Alvin Robertson fan. So those are my two guys that I would have loved
Rudy,
to
I watched him earlier today on the 1987 NBA All-Star game. Alvin was guarding Jordan. So
really?
I watched it earlier today. So if people want something to do, just go back and watch that year. Alvin was leading the league in steals. And even though it was an all-star game, it had Tom Chambers and Moses and all those guys playing. Yeah. Even though it was an all-star game, man, they were playing really hard. But you could still see just Alvin. He wasn't like going his hardest, but you could see like everywhere Mike went, Alvin was right there. So, yeah, that was something good to watch earlier today for me.
Yeah, man, one of the guys you got to go back. And that's what I love about when we talk with Derek about here on Sweep the League is we go back into the old school days and we talk old school basketball. Chris Bettis is in here. By the way, who do y'all hope the Spurs get in the lottery? So for me, I'm high on one guy. Everybody, the whole lore right now in Spurs world, Twitter or whatever you want to call it. Let's just say Spurs social media is Reed Richards. I think it was not Reed Richards. What's his name? Reed Shepherd. I'm thinking Fantastic Four. Reed Shepherd, out of Kentucky, is the one guy they're looking at. But personally, I like a guy out of Colorado, and that's Cody Williams. I'm super high on Cody Williams. So that's who I want. If you guys have a guy in the draft right now, who do you want the Spurs to get?
Wow. For me, it's a quick one. I would like Reed Shepherd. He's got it in his genes. Jeff Shepherd, his dad, of course, we know was a really good college player. And if you watch the young man, he's come on strong the last several months. And he's continued to get better, even though he's coming off the bench. So for me, that would be the player. I think he has a very high ceiling. I think he's very intelligent. And I know you guys are noticing the game is changing a little more. Mm-hmm. It's not just so much can you shoot the ball. Now you got guys that can distribute and do all the little things. And that's what we're watching now, transition, the guys that can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, Reed Shepherd's a very popular pick. Cody is a bucket. And go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, Reed is definitely a guy up there. I like Rob. Was it Rob
Dillingham?
Dillingham.
Yeah. I know where you're going. Dillingham.
Hey, he's a 6'3" point guard. I wouldn't mind that. I would not mind that. Building around Wemby, right? We don't need another center, and a power forward. They don't even exist anymore. So for the Spurs, Rob or Reed would be a fantastic start there. Then obviously in free agency, see what they get. But Rob's a 6'3" point guard. Is a very unique skill set to be that, completely that tall to be a point guard. We'll see how that happens in the NBA. But
is it possible to think like this? Because you're talking about Reed Shepherd, who I don't think is going to go number one. If the Spurs get the number one pick again or number two, it's an automatic. You have to trade down, I think. I mean, 1 and 2 this year is the same as drafting, 5, 6, 7. You're gonna get the same balance of player. Is all you're gonna get. There's not one guy that you have to have one for. It's not a Wemby. It's not a Cooper Flag. It's just you've got Alex R. You got Reed Shepherd, Cody Williams. All these guys.
How about that kid from Serbia?
Topic again.
The 7-footer, the 6'. You talking this big guy, huh, Gio?
Yeah, he's like 6 foot.
Zachary.
No. It's
Topic.
Yeah. Topic.
Okay, Topic. So Nikola Topic. Again, I mean the kid. What is he? 6'6". He's 18 years old. He's my backup plan if Cody Williams isn't there. But you trade down in this draft. You don't really want that number one pick because it's like, what? I can maybe get, a early second rounder and the late first and kind of get the same player what I'm looking at here. There's none of these top two guys are going to pair with Wemby, in my opinion, very well. A Cooper Flag pairs with Wemby better than a lot of these guys do. So trade down a little bit, get what you need to get. That's my honest opinion on it. Chris personally, both are good. Yeah, Cody Williams, Reed Shepherd, pretty much the and people want to see me drafted to the Spurs. I was drafted by San Antonio one time. It was actually part of the Spurs drug-free league is when I got drafted. Would y'all pair Wemby with Sarr? Again, I wouldn't pair Wemby with Sarr. I think it's more of he's 7'1". Again, you can go Twin Towers, but it's not the Samson Olajuwon. It's not the Duncan Robinson Twin Towers that you're thinking of. It's a new breed of Twin Tower. I don't think it pairs very well with Wemby, so that's why I say you might want to just trade down. We got another commercial break coming back. We're going to talk more draft because Gio's boy Caleb Williams decided I'm going to go ahead and throw on my pro day. I'm going to show off my gun, and I'm going to throw these deep balls because why? There's nobody defending my receiver. There's nobody rushing me. I'm going to make it look good.
Rudy. Show some respect.
The only respect
that's unbecoming of you.
The only respect I'm going to show is the MCS General Contracting. Sweep the league. Derek Gervin, Gio. We'll be right back.
MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business. Honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show.
Yeah, shout out to Chris Leha. Thank you for being a sponsor of the Alamo City Podcast Network. It is Derek Gervin. It is Coach Gio. Tim Gonzalez is in here. He's saying, Derek, remember 2 weeks ago I asked you about the star lineup. George, Banks, Keenan, Wemby, and A-Train, and with the roles the players would fit in this lineup plus head coach and how many wins with. So I guess he's wanted to know what would the win percentage be if that team is on the starting lineup for San Antonio Spurs.
Well, Tim didn't give me a point guard. He gave me a shooting guard, George. He gave me basically a power forward and Gino. I guess I could put Keenan at the small forward and then Wemby at the 4 and Artis at the 5. I don't think it'll work out too well because, as you know, I'm not very high on Phoenix this year. And the reason I'm not high on them is because they don't have a guy to control the ball game, point guard. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to say, Tim, and even though my brother's on there, we're looking at 45 and 37. Because at the end of the day, who's going to be the guy that gets everyone into their sets and make sure that everyone does what they're supposed to do offensively?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. You kind of need that point guard position, as you can tell. You kind of got to need that point guard position, Tim. It's pretty necessary, as you can tell from this year with Phoenix and also the Spurs. I mean, that's not a lie. The Spurs don't have necessarily a point guard either. So You definitely got to get into that as well. Good question, Tim. Caleb Williams, man. So Gio, your boy Caleb is yeah, he is what he is, bro. He is what he is. And we're getting into some Caleb Williams talks here. I mean, Gio,
I've told you about this, Rudy. I mean, we've talked about this. What are the Bears going to do? And I say, look, I understand keeping Justin. I would personally trade Justin, get pieces around Caleb, which they have, getting Keenan Allen, who is, look, he's not the most athletic guy, but that man just gets open, right? You have a security blanket with him, Moore, Cole Kmet, the running game. You have Swift now at running back along with Herbert back there. So it just, to me, it just makes sense. And look, Caleb's his own guy. Yeah, he's quirky. He does his own thing. And, you know, he wore that dress on the magazine. Whatever you want to say about Caleb, he's his own man. But look at his pro day, Rudy. That man, he can throw. And it's just one of those things where he's talented enough. Does he get in his own way? I think that's I think we'll see. But if the pieces are around him, the offensive line's there, I think Caleb's going to have success in the National Football League. We'll see. But right now, it's looking at the Bears. They better draft him, or do they go Jaden Daniels from LSU, which I love a lot too. So
rumor has it they might trade down. That they're not sold on Caleb, but the guy walked in Bears merch today to his pro day. I mean, if that doesn't tell you diva and that doesn't tell you everything negative about the kid, why in the F are you going to walk into your pro day in Bears in Bears gear? I mean, to me, if I'm the Bears, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to trade down and get another QB. I can trade down to 3, still get Jaden Daniels or Drake May if need be, keep my 9th pick. I mean, to me, it's terrible look for the guy, Gio.
I don't think it's I don't think it's a terrible look because this is the league, right? This is it. We have Brandon Ayuk posting a picture of Mike Tomlin saying, hey, some people say we look alike. And to some people, it sounds like he wants, hey, Mike, how about you get me out of San Francisco, come here to Pittsburgh? It's a different time, Rudy. It's a different era. Rudy, you have to get with the times. And this is what the kids are doing nowadays. And look, he's speaking it to existence, as LeVar Ball once said. So, hey, it's a different league, man.
Is it wrong for me to say I hope he gets drafted by the Bears and just completely goes Jamarcus?
Stop it, Rudy.
Just goes Jamarcus Russell on.
You just want this to happen because you want to prove a point. Come on, stop! Don't say that.
I worry a little bit about Caleb, as far as behavior wise, because we know he's going. I believe he's going to the Bears. Yeah. For me, that's set in stone. But it's going to be a rough year. It's going to be an indoctrination for him. And I'm just wondering how he's going to handle it because he can have some diva attitude at behavior, but hopefully this is going to be a maturation process for him because he's going to need it. I don't think the Bears are a team that's going to head to the top 3 of their division right now. I think he's going to go through some ups and downs, and we're going to find out what he's really made of, what kind of disposition he has. It was big to me getting rid of Justin Fields. That tells me that they want Caleb. And they're trying to make him feel comfortable. Maybe that's why he did his pro day after they got rid of Justin Fields. Maybe he didn't want to do anything before then. Maybe felt a little disrespected that it was a question mark or not, whether they're going to get rid of Fields or keep him. So we'll find out. But we'll find out what he's made of quickly.
That's a good point, Derek. Listen, the NFL, and I've talked to Rudy about this over the years, it finds a way to humble you, Derek. And he's going to have very humbling plays. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, he's going to have humbling plays. Do I expect him to come in and take over the league, even if I believe in him? No, I don't expect that. It's like we talked yesterday, Gio. It's rare for a rookie quarterback to come into the NFL and dominate. You're not going to get a CJ Stroud performance. I mean, that happens once in a lifetime.
Yeah, but we've seen more quarterbacks. Justin Herbert came in and played
pretty good,
pretty well. Joe Burrow came in, played pretty well. I mean, he did get hurt, but I mean, I think we're prone to more quarterbacks having rookie quarterbacks now having more success coming in. Sure, we've seen Patrick Mahomes wait, right? I mean, We saw the kid from Green Bay, Jordan Love, wait several years to get his opportunity. But hey, some quarterbacks, in this era, a lot of them are ready. You're going to have some rough patches, man. It's just bound to happen.
So, okay, forget the Heisman. Throw the Heisman out the window because, to be honest, I don't believe in the Heisman trophy. Just because you have a Heisman doesn't mean you're going to be a great NFL player. Let's just be real on that, especially at the quarterback position, especially at that position. So forget the Heisman part. You mentioned Joe Burrow coming in, had a good rookie season. Justin Herbert. You talk C.J. Stroud, a lot of these guys here. What is the biggest thing that they had in college that we didn't see with Caleb? And that's success at a team level. That is the biggest thing. You saw these guys lead their team, in the years that they were there. I mean, obviously Burrow with LSU, Stroud with Ohio State. I mean, you even had Herbert at Oregon. Their teams were competing every single week. USC was a laughingstock in some of these games.
Rudy.
And it's because of Caleb.
No. Listen, that defense.
What else do you blame it on?
Wherever Lincoln Riley goes, go look it up. The defense is absolutely terrible.
It is.
Wherever he's been, it's been terrible. And what I saw last year, dude, that defense was giving up touchdowns like this, like clockwork. And he's having to go out there and be a miracle worker. So really, yes, he didn't have a ton of team success. But to be fair, that defense was pretty atrocious. It was really bad.
All right, Derek, your thoughts on Caleb, because I just don't see it being success there when it comes to the NFL. Now, I don't think he's going to be Ryan Leaf or Jamarcus Russell. I was joking about that stuff, but
deep down in your heart, Rudy, you hope.
No, I don't.
That he's a Ryan Leaf and he's yelling at the camera so you can retweet it and then tag me on it.
I think he's got Ryan Leaf's demeanor, probably. He'll probably go off on a couple of media guys. I'll give you my at best and my at worst when it comes to Caleb. What do you got, Derek?
I think he's a very talented guy, man. I just think he kind of regressed a little bit this year. I don't think he played as well as he did earlier in his career. But I think he's a very talented player. I just don't know what they're going to have in front of him as far as the offensive line and all the tools they're going to surround themselves with to make him give him a better chance to succeed. I don't think he's going to be a bust by any means, but my only question is how is he going to handle the adversity when the Bears start going through their more downs, I would say, than ups. It's just how is he going to handle that, being the leader of the team.
So what's the ceiling for him, Gio? What's your ceiling for him? If you had to pick an NFL player, and then
Geno Smith? No, I'm just
Hey, Geno's had a good bounce back last year. No, for Caleb, I think his first year, I think best case scenario, you're looking at, I'm thinking 19 to 24 touchdowns.
That many? Wow, okay.
19 to 24 touchdowns. Because remember, this is a team that also ran the ball a lot last season, and they're going to do the same. And if they could be as successful as they were in certain times, because I thought Justin Fields at times played well. They won a decent more games than what I thought they were going to win. And if they run the ball well, the play action pass, they have Shane Waldron who came over from Seattle running that offense. You're going to see some things from the Rams, something from the Seahawks. So I think 19 to 24 touchdowns. And I know I sound crazy, but I just think that's the talent he has. But the team, what is the team giving you? And I've seen the Bears this offseason, Rudy, actually do something. Right? A Keenan Allen, you have more, Cole Clement, Swift at running back. The offensive line should be improved entering next season. So they're doing some things. And then their defense, they signed Sweat to an extension. They're going to be much better team, Rudy, next season.
They are. Now, I consider them probably, guaranteed playoff team if Fields was there. But with Caleb, I'm not so sure.
Wait. But they're competing against the Vikings, who are going to have a new quarterback, right?
But their defense. The Vikings defense is still
pretty stout.
Good. Yeah.
Pretty stout.
And I know everyone loves the Lions, but
you better love the Lions. That's the team right there.
Could the Lions have a down year?
No. There's not.
Hey, I mean, we saw what happened to the Eagles. Things happen, teams catch up, and sometimes things don't always work as planned. So, but we'll see how the season compares. But I'm thinking 19 to 24 touchdowns.
And what, Gio, what? So you're looking at what, 20? Is this an option, 25 touchdowns maximum, maybe 25 and what, 12, 13 pickoffs?
I'm thinking about probably 8 to 10 picks, simply because we even see Mahomes throwing a lot of picks. Josh Allen throws a lot of picks. Justin Burrow, Matthew Stafford throws a lot of picks, right? So it's just bound to happen. You're probably looking at 24, 22, and 10, and potentially Rookie of the Year. Now, he should probably win it. But
God, no.
But depending on what other quarterbacks are obviously playing, or defensive linemen, or whoever they're, offense, whatever. But Rudy, listen, I believe sometime down the line next year, Derek, Rudy's going to say to himself, man, Gio was right again.
So Chris Bettis, when he says a better Russell Wilson, looking at Caleb, I put him, his absolute ceiling is Russell Wilson.
Oh, boy.
And that's pretty good, Rudy.
And that's pretty good. That's what I said.
That's a Super Bowl player.
That's what I'm saying. Now, okay, Russ had a lot of help with his defense at the time too.
Here we go.
But no, you can't say he did it. He did. Legion of Boom. But I have him at the ceiling for me, Russell Wilson. That's my ceiling.
That surprises me, Rudy. To me, that's pretty high praise, because
that's what I'm saying, Rudy.
Russell's been an MVP caliber player for several years, like over a 7-year period. There weren't too many quarterbacks better than Russell Wilson.
Well, I keep it real. I keep it real in the show, and I don't say stuff just to say it. I do keep it real. But
so what's the worst case? Who's the worst case quarterback?
Worst case scenario, and this is worst case. I don't think he's going to be this, but I mean, if he's worst case, he's Mark Sanchez, I would say. Worst case, just worst case. I would say Mark Sanchez, worst case. He's going to have the plays. He can get to a playoff series, the playoffs. He'll have a season here or there. I mean, he's not
that's bad.
He's not David Carr bad. I mean, let's put it that way. I don't think he's going to be David Carr.
Come on, the man going to be known for the butt fumble?
He's going to be known
you know
for
what,
something.
though? Give Sanchez this, though.
Something.
He did take the Jets to two AFC championships, and were a few plays away to get in the Super Bowl.
And that's what I'm saying. But for me, where I feel Caleb Williams falls, and taking out all the nonsense and taking out all the negative that I have about him, I have him as Alex Smith. I really do have him as Alex Smith. Serviceable, can get you wins, can be a good quarterback. I just don't know if I'm going to see him better than that. That's just me.
Alex, to me, was limited, and we saw that simply when San Francisco say, hey, you know what? We're going to go with Kaepernick. Alex Smith, in his prime still with Kansas City, what happens, Derek? They trade him.
Yeah.
They traded him. They traded him for Mahomes.
I mean, I think Alex Smith is for me. I mean, worst case scenario, Chris is having him as Manziel. I
mean, but you know what though, Chris? I could see it. He does have like some of that Manziel effect where he's
when he's
his own. Yeah. When he scrambles, he has his own way of doing things, and Manziel was drinking.
So will he have? So he'll have a better career than a Kirk Cousins or Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're giving him more credit than that, hopefully. Is it Russ now? Is it Russ now, or is it Russ in his prime years?
I say his ceiling for me is Russ in his prime years. So I mean, playoff quarterback, maybe a Super Bowl, maybe an MVP. But again, it goes back to what do the Bears do? Now, the Bears have given him a squad this year, but can you really say Caleb is going to do it his first year? I don't see that.
What don't you like? What's the main thing that you don't like about Caleb?
He holds the ball too long. He waits too long for a play to develop. And I understand you can make a play develop by running around and all that stuff. But in the NFL, it's a faster game. It's so quick that these guys that are running at you in 4 seconds, they're there in 3 in the NFL. So you got to be able to think quicker. This running around and scrambling doesn't work. He's not Michael Vick. He's not going to be able to just get away from these guys. Now, he holds the ball on a lot. He takes a lot of sacks. I mean, it's just, I don't think his mentality is right for the pro level. It's almost like you got to go back into the Walsh years, Gio and Derek. Just keep it simple. West Coast offense. Get the ball out quick. Receivers, bang, boom, done. Move the ball. Move the chains. West Coast offense, I think Caleb Williams shines better than if you're going to have him have to make a play with his feet or, rely on a play to develop. I think he gives up on plays a lot more than people realize.
Oh, Rudy, you don't see him having a ceiling that's here because guys like that, you could put them basically in any system and they're going to succeed, kind of like a Brady or Mahomes or those guys. Yeah. So you don't have him anywhere approaching that kind of ceiling.
No, I think it has to be the right system. You've got to have the right offense for Caleb Williams to be successful in the NFL.
I mean, we saw Patrick Mahomes come out, and there were a ton of negatives on Patrick Mahomes. He got into the right system. So we do talk about system, right?
Yeah.
But I think Caleb, he did not have a ton of team help on that USC team. It did make him have to make questionable throws, right? He's feeling the need to overexert himself simply because, hey, my defense is going to give a touchdown probably in 5 minutes. I need to go out here and make plays. But his ability to run outside the pocket in today's NFL, it's huge. The days of Matt Ryan and even to a certain extent Kirk Cousins just sitting back there, Derek, right, and picking you apart.
That's not happening. Yeah.
That's not happening. The teams are moving pockets nowadays. Patrick Mahomes is being moved around a lot, and I just think his ability with his footwork, listen, he's going to get better. It's just, hey, and he had Lincoln Riley, who has coached some pretty good NFL. I mean, look, Baker Mayfield's not great, but he did just get a contract, right? And Kyler Murray got a contract as well. And these are guys who have been successful in the league. Jalen Hurts was also with Lincoln Riley, and look what he's doing. So Lincoln Riley, for all his defensive issues, Derek, you got to agree, offensively, he has gifted the NFL with some pretty good quarterbacks.
That's the one thing he's done very well, even when he was back at Texas Tech, I believe. So he's been doing this for a while. Then Oklahoma, he's been around. He's been doing some good things. But I just think the good thing for Caleb, I'll say, is the game has kind of changed for quarterbacks. Now it's more like you're almost a running back as well. And so I think that gives him an advantage. You don't always have to be that pocket passer. And I think he'll be able to do that with some good offensive line help. But the fact that he has good wheels is going to be definitely a positive as he begins his career.
And, to me, this is the question you can ask. We don't know if he's drafted by the Bears. We're just assuming it. We don't know what the Bears are thinking, obviously. So say he is drafted by the Bears. Does he immediately become the best quarterback the Bears have ever had since McMahon? I mean, that's the way people are treating this.
Well, he's better than McMahon. Jay Cutler was pretty good for a little bit there.
You mean to tell me that you would put him over McMahon from day one?
Yeah. I mean, look. To be fair, that Bears offense, we all know who was the main reason, and that was that running back they had back there. McMahon was good. Don't get me wrong. I think he did make a Pro Bowl, but that's not. Caleb's probably the best quarterback they've had.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think.
Man. Hey, listen. Now, Jay Cutler, I think Jay was really good. He did have issues with the coaching staff and his diva stuff as well. So, but yeah, Rudy, he's better than McMahon. Come on.
I played harder than Jay Cutler, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, Jay Cutler. I mean, can we forget they did have George Blanda was there? I mean, is he better than Steve Walsh? I mean, I don't even know, man. It's so hard to do with Caleb Williams, man.
Oh boy, you pulling out names, not Steve Walsh.
Eric Kramer. I remember Eric Kramer from back in the day. I mean, there's a lot of QBs in Chicago that I could honestly say he could probably.
Eric Kramer also played with the Lions. I'm not gonna slap the man in the
face. They're.
Wasn't there a Tom Zach from back in the day?
Mike Tom Zach.
Yeah, they had a lot of. They've had, as someone who's, I lived in Chicago for a bit. I've talked to the fans. They are in desperate need of a quarterback. They are desperate, Derek. That fan base wants a quarterback, and I believe and I know they get Caleb, or even Jalen Daniels can also work as well. But
Gio, don't you think they've been talking to Caleb? Somebody's told him.
That's what I'm saying. It's just if
he didn't just wear. I don't think he just wore that shirt to be cocky, arrogant, or anything. I think he really believes he's been told he's going to be a Chicago Bear, and I just don't think they're going to upset the apple cart at the last minute and try to shake things up. I think he's the guy they've been pinpointing from the beginning, and I think that's really who's going to be. I really believe he's going to be a Chicago Bear.
So I'm going to throw this curveball to you guys because it hasn't really been rumored, but it's been talked about. So apparently teams have approached Chicago when it comes to the number 1 pick. And one team that hasn't been confirmed, but is being thrown out there from some analysts is the Chargers. And when I say the Chargers, I'm saying the Chargers are rumored to have interest in that number 1 pick, which means they're willing to send their number 1 this year, their number 1, I think, in 2 years from now, and one Justin Herbert for a chance to to draft Caleb Williams and leave Caleb in California.
No way.
How ridiculous would that be?
Well, if I'm the Bears, I mean, you get a product right now who's ready, right? Like Caleb is going to take some time, but Justin Herbert's I wouldn't say 100% proven commodity, but he's made the playoffs. He had that disaster there, but he's put up a lot of yards. If the Bears get Herbert, I mean, Derek, you got to agree that'd be pretty good for the Bears.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, but I don't see that happening because
no, I don't see it either.
Herbert's in that top tier of quarterbacks. If you want to name top 8 or whatever it may be, I actually like Herbert for myself better than Dak. And so I just don't see that happening. I don't know. I don't think they're going to take an unproven commodity for a guy that has potential to be a MVP moving forward. And I believe Justin Herbert has that potential.
And so the reason why it was brought up was because they had mentioned you've already moved on from Keenan Allen. You moved on from Austin Eckler. You don't have Mike Williams. You're basically gutting your entire offense. So what does that do? That pisses off one Justin Herbert, and he may not be happy with the Chargers. So that's the reason why it was brought up, was the fact that
Rudy, don't they have a new coach coming in?
Nah, they've got a boy. They've got Jim Harbaugh coming in.
Well, so I think he's changing the culture. I think what he's doing is now, I was surprised they got rid of Allen. I think Allen would have been a good culture guy, but it sounds like to me they wanted to wipe that slate and to a certain extent with different positions start fresh. And Jim has been a good NFL head coach. So
Hey, Gio, Jim did not leave Michigan to come and coach Caleb Williams. I don't think that was the plan at all.
And I don't think him and Caleb were
salivating at the chance to coach Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Harbaugh with Caleb, I don't think that might be the greatest idea, but
no, it definitely is.
They could bump heads, but
it was, like I said, it was just brought up only because of the fact of they gutted the entire Chargers offensive side. So, I mean, you don't really move on from Herbert. It was something like that. It's kind of like the Vikings basically shopping Justin Jefferson as well. I mean, you've got to do your due diligence, and I think that's all it is everybody doing their due diligence. So what we're going to do is, man, Caleb Williams goes to the Bears. That's probably where he's going to end up going. There are rumors that the Bears still may trade down, take, a Jaden Daniels or maybe a Drake May, maybe one of those teams moving on up. But again, it's going to be interesting to see with the draft coming up in April. Shout out to Caleb Williams. Thank you for showing us that you can throw deep passes with nobody guarding the receiver.
Rudy, quick,
and nobody rushing you.
Quick question.
Yeah.
For nothing for the Bears, how about another scenario, they draft Harrison and then they go get their other quarterback?
Well,
I think that would be also another smart move. You get Harrison there with Keaton Allen and more, and then you go draft with that other pick. You have a quarterback. That does sound very appealing. If I'm the Bears GM, to the Bears fans, maybe not so much because they want a big time quarterback, but that does sound pretty appealing.
I guarantee you, everybody outside of the mainstream media who pushes the Caleb narrative, you'll find more people that don't want the Bears drafting Caleb than you would wanting drafting him.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are not on that bandwagon. So go after Harrison. Like I said, even if I'm like the Commanders or even, the Patriots, I'm considering drafting a playmaker before a quarterback. Even though I don't have one, I know there's going to be a few later on down the line that I can get that are still going to be productive. So needless to say, man, Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams will Caleb Williams, put it that way. The Bears are going to Bears. Caleb's going to Caleb. That is the show for today. We're going to be back tomorrow again, 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Derek, I believe you'll be back on Friday for the Friday show. Flashback Friday, we'll talk more NBA hoops. We should have Rock back on tomorrow. Of course, Gio should be back as well as I tomorrow, 4 o'clock. This is Sweep the League. We swept the entire league. We swept all the NBA. We talked about Kyrie, another Duke player. I always mention Duke players. We talked about Caleb Williams and Gio's man crush on Caleb Williams. But we're going to get into a lot more talk tomorrow. For Derek Gervin, this is Rudy Campos Jr. For Coach Gio, remember, Alamo City Podcast Network on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share. Till we sweep the league again, we'll see you knuckleheads later.
You guys have a good evening. Gio, have a good evening. Rudy, you as well.